Hello and welcome to Mississippi Insight. I'm Byron Brown. Thank you for joining us. This week, Governor Tate Reeves touts income tax elimination as the key to economic development. Is he right? Can Mississippi truly afford to lose such a critical source of revenue? Dr. Dal Didia from Jackson State University offers an economist perspective. Also, the workforce is undergoing big shifts, and older workers, even retirees, are in high demand. Susan Weinstock from AARP breaks down some new data on these big shifts in labor. That's all coming up this Sunday on Mississippi Insight. With the 2022 legislative session underway, Mississippi's governor delivered his latest State of the State address Tuesday, and income tax elimination was a big part of his policy pitch to lawmakers. Governor Tate Reeves delivered his speech outside the state capitol. He covered a lot of bases, lauding teachers for raising education standards, blasting critical race theory, and touting the state's workforce development efforts. And he had plenty to say about current efforts to adjust the state's tax system to eventually eliminate the income tax.
We also need to consider how to attract those companies and economic projects that transform communities, create generational wealth, and lift families out of poverty. This does not happen one project at a time. It takes a bold vision that lasts forever. The heart of that vision is the elimination of the state's income tax. By eliminating the income tax, we can put ourselves in a position to stand out. We can throw out the welcome mat for the dreamers and the visionaries. We can win projects. We can have more money circulating in our economy, and it can lead to more wealth for all Mississippians. I am begging Mississippi legislators to be bold. Give us another arrow in our quiver to attract more capital and to continue to transform our economy. When someone in California or Illinois or even Louisiana decides to start their own business, let's make them consider doing it right here in Mississippi. Let's tell them that they are guaranteed to keep more of the first dollar of profit they earn if they come to our state. The only way to make Mississippi a magnet for the entrepreneurs of our nation is to show them our unmatched culture married to an unbeatable tax code.
So is the governor and his fellow Republican leaders right? Other states have tried such a move, and some have come to regret it. Joining us via Zoom is Dr. Dal Didia. He is professor of economics in the Department of Business Administration at Jackson State University. Much of his work focuses on economic development, urban economics, and natural resource economics. Professor Didia, welcome to Mississippi Insight.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Well, you heard the governor's pitch for income tax elimination. In a nutshell, is he right?
Well, I would say this. Every time you eliminate income taxes, what you're doing is putting more money in the hands of the income earners. And whenever you put more money in the hands of consumers, it's a good thing. It's good for the economy. When people spend more of the money they make, they reveal their true preferences in what they buy, in the goods and services they buy. So in that way, yes, Mississippi GDP will increase if you put more money in the economy. The GDP will increase, more business will come, but the problem there is all the projections that we make, all the assumptions we make. What if those assumptions don't pan out? If you look at our tax revenue that the Department of Revenue collects, the main taxes we collect are the sales tax and the income tax. And both taxes account for about over 60% of the revenues that the government collects. So if you eliminate the individual income tax, for instance, you're eliminating about $2.something billion. How do you make that up in the interim? What if all the calculations don't pan out? There may be problems.
Of course, it's not the governor's bill, but House Speaker Philip Gunn's bill, HB 531, that is currently at the center of this debate. It passed the House and awaits Senate consideration. You've looked at this bill. What's your analysis on how this would impact our revenue picture?
The revenue picture, definitely, as you know, we have, if the bill goes through, we have a shortfall to make up right away. You will have about $2.2 billion shortfall. This is easy, sure income tax money that's easy to collect. Now, you know that for you to make that up, other taxes have to go up. The tax burden will shift. Somebody else will pay high. There's no free lunch. Somebody else will bear the tax burden.
It has been noted in news coverage how Kansas tried to eliminate its income tax and found itself in trouble with huge budget deficits. What are some of the risks of some dramatically altering our tax structure here in Mississippi?
Okay, some of the risks will be, for instance, let's say we have this shortfall that we can make up. You run government deficits. When you run government deficits, either you borrow money or you cut back on your services. There's no other way to do it. Either you borrow more money or you cut back on services. Which services are you going to cut? And in most cases, the easiest to cut are services of the poor and low income people. The services of those that have little voice in the political system will be the first victims. And yes, it's good for GDP to grow. It's good for us to have more businesses. But there are things that the market system doesn't take care of that the government should take care of. So if you have this kind of shortfall in the budget and you begin to cut back on government services, you may create more social problems. You may create more issues in the economy that the market system cannot solve for you.
Who truly benefits from income tax elimination in particular? Is it rich people, workers, business developers? Who benefits from all of this?
Generally, like I said, generally, when you have a reduction in taxes, you're putting more money in the hands of the wage earners. And we know that individuals spend their money better than government. We know that. You truly buy what you want to buy, that will send a signal to producers and suppliers to produce what we need. That's a good thing. If you eliminate income taxes, you might even get more people to go to work because they're going to take home more of the money they make. It may encourage more people to come out. So some of the labor shortages you see now may be alleviated if you allow people to spend more of what they make. Okay. So generally speaking, whenever you raise income taxes, everybody benefits. But we also know that there are vulnerabilities in the society. There are people, you're eliminating sort of a progressive tax system and replacing it with more of what I would say goes more towards a regressive system. We all go to the same grocery stores, the high income earners and the low income earners. We all buy the same food from Walmart. We buy the same merchandise from the stores. So in a way, the people, the low income, the people on fixed income, those people will bear a disproportionate share of this tax burden. Also, if we do not meet the projections, and the surplus is not enough to make up, something we have to give.
Dr. Dal Didia, thank you for joining us this week.
All right. Thank you for having me.
We are coming down to the final stages of a medical marijuana program in Mississippi, and a vote of 103 yeas to 13 nays. The revised medical marijuana bill passed in the House just hours before SB 2095 made it through the Senate with little debate. The long, hard-working efforts felt all around in both chambers today when the vote was finalized after making zoning changes. Straight ahead, AARP shares some interesting research on older workers and the Great Resignation. It's Mississippi Insight only on 12 News. A survey this month by AARP points to something we're seeing right here in the Magnolia State. They find 21% of people who responded say they retired earlier than planned. That's due in great part, but not entirely, to the COVID-19 pandemic. The Mississippi Department of Transportation is just one of the public sector agencies finding it hard to keep their most seasoned workers. The executive director, Brad White, says MDOT will receive about $3.6 billion in federal funds from the Infrastructure Investment Jobs Act. That money will help a lot with aging bridges, for instance. But White says MDOT has lost over 30 engineers to better paying jobs out of state, and that means critical staff shortages and higher costs for private contractors to do all that work.
For the first time in my knowledge, MDOT has counties where there are 0 employees. Now, the reason that that's significant is that that means our floating crews that are out there going around responding to immediate needs coming up, that are patching the potholes, that are clearing out culverts, that are responding to constituent calls or legislative calls, that the area in which they have to cover is becoming geographically larger and larger, and so their response time is becoming later and later. We lose them primarily to our local government partners.
Well, these trends are hitting both public agencies and commercial industries. We want to bring in one of the researchers behind that AARP survey. Susan Weinstock is Vice President of Financial Resilience at the American Association of Retired Persons. Her research focuses on the job market and the workforce. Susan Weinstock, welcome to Mississippi Insight.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Let's talk about this AARP survey and what it tells you about today's jobs market.
Well, it's really interesting. What we found was that of those who had retired during the pandemic, 21% of them said that they retired earlier than they had planned because of the pandemic. So we know it is changing the workforce.
We hear a lot about that great resignation, and it's hurting a lot of employers, but isn't it giving older workers a lot more clout in terms of their marketability?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. Is this really going to be the great resignation, or is it actually going to end up being the great reshuffle? That workers of all ages, but including older workers, are now seeing new opportunities to change jobs, to do something different, to move up or whatever, because of this huge labor shortage. We have more job openings than we have people to fill them. For the first time in a long time, and workers really have an edge in this labor market. So they, have the ability to move into something else.
What advice can you offer someone who's older and trying to get a job in 2022?
Well, it's really important to fix up that resume and fix up that LinkedIn profile and make sure that they are a really good reflection of you. We actually offer a free critique of your resume. If you're interested, go to aarp.org/resume. We also have our own job board, and we have job listings from our employer pledge signers. These are employers who've said that we hire based on ability regardless of age, and that we value older workers and a multi-generational workforce. You can filter on our job board just for those employers, and that the job board is at jobs.aarp.org. And one more, if you're interested in upskilling or reskilling, we have launched our online learning platform at aarp.org/workskills. And there you can take a wide variety of courses. You can earn a certificate or credentials if that's what you're interested in. And we're also offering for free the Microsoft Office suite. So Word, PowerPoint, and Excel training. Because if you're working in a restaurant or retail or warehouse and you don't want to do that kind of work anymore, and you want to go work in an office, you have to know Microsoft Office. So we're offering that for free. And again, that's at aarp.org/workskills.
Are there specific jobs that are in higher demand for older workers these days that are out there?
Well, we know that employers are looking for the soft skills that older workers bring. They tell us that they love the leadership skills, the management skills, the listening and empathy skills, the teamwork, the collaboration. All of those are really important skills, and those are soft skills that employees, learn over time as an employee, as a worker. That's what you sort of just bring that into yourself. So employers love those soft skills. They tell us we can train the hard skills, but those soft skills are much harder, and so they really appreciate that. That older workers have those. So if you're in a job interview or if on your cover letter, if you want to emphasize some of those soft skills that you have, that would be really helpful.
It is not as though there aren't young workforce candidates out there. So what are they missing and something that precludes their getting these in-demand jobs?
Well, we unfortunately last year we did a survey about age discrimination, and we've asked this question over the years many times, and 78% of the 50 plus said that they had seen or experienced age discrimination in the workforce. So that's very troubling. But given this labor shortage, this might be the opportunity for older workers to really get back into the workplace, show their value, show what they bring, and really make a difference in the workforce right now.
Are older workers, are they wanting to get back in, or are they okay just getting out and retiring and saying, I'm done?
Well, we'll see. The best antidote to financial resilience and financial security is ensuring that is a job. A monthly paycheck is the way to get that financial security. Some of these folks who have retired, it's interesting what we've seen is they haven't, the claiming of new Social Security claiming didn't go up in 2021 from what it was in 2019, even though we saw this large cohort of folks who retired. So does that mean that they are planning to go back to work and they're just taking a little time off while COVID, gets through and done with, and then they're going to want to go back into the workforce? A lot of them had caregiving responsibilities either for their parents or children or grandchildren, or they themselves were worried about their health, or they had health issues themselves. There are a whole host of reasons why people may have dropped out of the workforce, but we don't know if that means it's a permanent retirement or if this is a temporary thing and they're planning to go back.
What about the employers themselves, both public and private? What do they need to do to keep attracting the skilled labor that they need, retired and otherwise?
Well, we know, when you ask older workers about why they work, obviously the number one reason is money, but they also talk about that they want to work because, they like the camaraderie, they like the social, the social, lack of, the social, working with other people. They like all of that sort of thing, a purpose, mission driven, why to get up in the morning kind of thing. But we've also been talking to employers, and we did a survey with employers, and they talk about how much they value experience as proof of a candidate's ability to do the job. And 76% of employers told us that they prioritize skills actually over education, which is another great aspect for older workers to really emphasize those skills as they're talking to employers.
Sounds good. Susan Weinstock, good information. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
The federal government is taking action against the city of Jackson for failing to repair and maintain the water treatment plant's equipment. 12 News' Anna Fair spoke one-on-one with the U.S. EPA administrator.
The city of Jackson is facing another fine from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency for not repairing and maintaining equipment at the O.B. Curtis water treatment facility.
The reality is the state of Mississippi needs to prioritize its funding for cities like Jackson, because we have to do all that we can to protect those children and to protect the community.
For a week, residents of South Jackson have experienced little to no water pressure.
This was just, we got so low at the plant as far as getting water out in production, and we just got behind.
This week, the mayor visited Administrator Regan in Washington to discuss infrastructure funding. Regan says he also sent a letter to elected officials stressing the importance of properly distributing the bipartisan infrastructure funding to fix the city's most unreliable areas.
First and foremost, they have to find the resources now from somewhere to keep people safe. But more importantly, he wants to work with EPA. I want to work with him We want to work with the governor of Mississippi to prioritize the resources from the bipartisan infrastructure law to put those resources where they're needed most. The people in Jackson, Mississippi, and people all across this country deserve drinking clean water. Dirty water is unacceptable in this country. And so together, along with the governor of Mississippi, it's our obligation to fix that.
Mayor Lumumba says one reason for the backlog at the water treatment plant is a worker shortage. Currently, the city can't keep up with demand.
That is Anna Ferris reporting. The EPA has given the city 45 days to correct the deficiencies laid out. The amount of fine was not disclosed. We're back in a moment. Our thanks to Dr. Dal Didia and Susan Weinstock for joining us this week. We'll be back next weekend with more of the political and current affairs coverage that you demand. I'm Byron Brown. From all of us here on 12 News, make it a great weekend.